This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, that's a WHKS guy. The patch put on there or something. Oh yeah. Wasn't he in a surgeon one the other day that Greg posted? He looked adorable in that one too. Really? Perfect. I got 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just need approval and adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Review the minutes from our regular meeting on June 20th.
Something happened, James.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 20th meeting minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Review the minutes from the North Somerville Sanitary Sewer District meeting from June 26th. No need for motion. Everybody have time to look over that? Review the minutes from our council work session from July 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 10th work session minutes.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Review the accounts payable, Joan will go over the accounts payable for July 18th.
Okay, so we had two big payments. One is 80485. It's for $357,174.71. That is one of the payments for some of the work being done on Jefferson Mill, 6th Street. And then there 8096 was WHKS for $74,483.81. And that again ties in with work that we're preparing and doing. Other notables were 80430, which is solar electric for $9,052.17. Excel had a bill on 80437 for $8,890.98. And then CETA had it on 80447 for $8,735.41. Everything else is pretty normal. Does anyone have any questions? If not, then I would recommend that we approve the accounts payable in the amount of $514,000, $14,035.37.
Second.
Any questions or concerns for Kim or Joan? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Joan. We'll open the public comment portion. Individuals may address the city council about any items of concern. Speakers must state their name and limit their remarks to 5 minutes. If you're here for public comments on the grass ordinance or the limited time ordinance, we'll open that when we discuss that, which is later in the council. Any other comment? Public comments? Yes, Roger.
Roger Ballstead, the Rhoda Township Chairman. Brian and I sat down a couple weeks ago and went over the township's concerns at that time with the annexation that's coming up tonight, or the proposal, however you call that. And at this point, we're well aware of what's going on. When it comes to us, if we have questions, we'll deal with it then. But for right now, Brian and I kind of covered that a couple weeks ago, our concerns, and I'm just relaying that to the city council. Nothing else I can think of right at the moment.
Thanks, Roger. Any more public comments other than the grass or the parking?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
Okay, so, hi, my name is Ryan Mokreski. I'd like to point out that no public notice of the revised code ordinances in their current form was given for this meeting, nor was the meeting agenda publicly posted. My understanding is that the person who normally posts these is out and others were unable to post them. If the goal is to encourage more community engagement, it is difficult when the community has no or limited notice. There should be alternate and redundant means of communication between the city and its residents. Minnesota statute 415.19 states that new and amended ordinances are required to be posted 10 days prior to a vote if the city has ordinances posted online. Skipping this step leaves residents out of the loop and ultimately leads to more frustration all around. I spoke to Ray Bolhauer, president of American Legal Publishing, who compiled our existing ordinances, which would be like the scanned PDF on the website. He said it would cost around $600 to convert our existing code to the online platform, plus an annual hosting fee of $595 per year. To me, that sounds like a very good use of tax dollars unless there's an alternate plan to get the current codes more accessible in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, we had a couple of revisions. Had sent the packet out, and the code committee made a couple of revisions on the grass and weeds. And so I made those revisions, and we got them out to the council. It is true that Kim and I don't know how to put it out on the website, which is where it usually goes. It's by ordinance, it needs to be out there a day ahead of time. I've got it up here now, partly for that reason. We will rectify that for sure and get it out there. And I had this whole conversation with you as well.
Yep.
When you were in. So, the legal publishing and all of that, yes, I think we did that 10 years ago or so before I was here.
Is what he said, yeah.
Yep. And so we have looked into that again, and I think, like you said, I think we do have a quote somewhere. I don't think it was that. I think it was a lot more.
Okay.
But
yeah, he said there was 3 options given, and I'm not sure what those were.
Yep. So yeah, those things are things that we have talked about, and yeah, getting the typically the packets out there. This time it was not. It happens to be the biggest packet we've ever had, I think. So bad timing, but yeah, no, I agree. And Matt, could you shed some light on the proper way for we had a first reading of these ordinances, and then we had public comments at the last meeting, and then now we had a couple of more revisions. Do they need to be reposted and for 10 days before we act on them?
Probably a good idea, but I'm trying to remember. I wasn't aware of this situation. I'm trying to remember how the statute reads.
I do have a copy of it, if that's helpful. And if also it's helpful, the statute itself has a provision saying, hey, if you don't want to, you don't have to do this. So I don't know what the statute does.
I don't think it's fatal.
No, it's not. Yep, you can still pass stuff. I just, if you want community engagement and transparency, that would go a long way, so everyone knows what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, in this case, we made some changes based on your comments, so we're going to move it forward. But yeah. Thank you for the comments.
The hosting, was that $5.99 or $500?
$595
Nice.
per year.
Gotcha.
Which I know council, or some of us at last meeting have talked about possibly, or we need to do something to make it easier for the public, so it's been discussed since you brought that up last meeting too, so it's.
And maybe it's something we can host ourselves and we just pay them a different, one of those options gave us maybe was to say, hey, this is now ours, we own this, we have the Word document, it's just a possibility.
Yeah, and we're dealing with some IT stuff later too, so it's, with the changing of stuff, we did software, a couple years ago, so we're working on that.
Yep, we're working on that.
Any more public comment portions? I will close the public comment portion and we'll start with public hearings. North Zumbro Sanitary Sewer District Annexation. Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet is a series of figures and diagrams. Brian's going to pull some of these up. What we're here for tonight is this is a public hearing to receive comments on the annexation of approximately 88 or 89 acres, currently owned by Jim and Connie Wendt. Brian, if you could go one more page down. Okay, this is the survey certificate of what we'll be annexing, which if you can kind of picture that, then if you go to the next page, Brian, maybe helps. This is where we're at. So the intent of this is we are annexing this property into the city so that the city, and then later on tonight, we'll be considering a plat of this property so that the North Zumbro Sanitary District can purchase approximately 45 acres. So this is the proposed site of the future North Zumbro Sanitary District wastewater plant, which will treat wastewater from Wanamingo, Goodhue, Zumbrota, and Pine Island. And what Brian has on the screen there now, this is the approximately 45 acres of that 89 acres that would be sold to the sanitary district. This is a concept drawing of what the facility would look like. One of the comments that we had at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is timing. When would this occur? This is currently slated to occur or be constructed starting the fall of 2026, 27, and 28. That is contingent upon receiving further funding from the state. So council, what we're here tonight is to receive comments from the public. You will act on this annexation request under new business below. So with that, Mayor, I'm finished with my portion of that. So now is the time to ask for public comments.
Anybody have public comments concerning the North Zumbro Sanitary Annexation? I know we've been working on this for a few years, so it's not new. Any comments? I will close that public hearing and we'll open up a public hearing for the Chapa annexation. Bill again.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so Tammy and John Champa have requested to annex in approximately 18 acres into the city. This would then facilitate development of their property, but from the city's perspective, this would facilitate us to rebuild 9th Street and Jefferson Drive. So this is tied to our construction project. Council, you have seen those plans. This is rerouting Jefferson Drive to basically eliminate what I'll call the hairpin turn. Later on in the council agenda, we have the bids that we'll be acting on for the 9th Street Jefferson project. Also later on tonight, there's a land transfer for this to occur in order to reroute Jefferson to connect to 9th Street and 460th Street. There is an agreement for 1.94 acres to be transferred from Champa to the city, and we have that agreement later on tonight. So again, this is a public hearing to receive comments on that with the other action items to occur further on the agenda.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. I think I'm going to be saying that a lot tonight. Any public comments on the Chapa annexation? Any public comments? I will close the public hearing on the Chapa annexation, and we'll open up 9A, unfinished business, the ordinance 2024-03, amending the weeds and grasses ordinance. Before we open public comments, we'll let Chief and Brian talk about that. You want to go first, Brian?
Yes. Just let me pull up this one. This is the correct one, weeds and grasses. So as you know, we proposed this. We had a first reading. We took some public comments at the last meeting. We took it back to the code committee, made a few changes, and we're bringing it back tonight. Chief Callahan does a very good job explaining since him and his staff are the enforcement of these. So I'm going to ask Pat to speak to what we've got on here, the reasons why the decisions were made to put what we've got on there. Some of the changes that I made just real quickly is after the comments, we added native landscapes, which is a required state statute that was pointed out, so appreciate that. And then we decided that we would go with the state statute of 8 inches in height rather than the foot that we were proposing. And then we changed the 72 hours to 4 days. So a little bit more time to take care of grass once you've been notified. But Pat, you want to grab a mic? And
Just to clarify, the 4 days is state statute too, right?
No.
Okay. What was state statute on that? Do
I
you
don't
remember?
believe the state statute
Didn't
speaks
define
to
Okay.
the response, it just declares what the height is. So for our purpose, again, was to clean up some ordinances, and that's why we established the code committee. And some of the things that we would get frequent requests on and complaints is in regards to violators throughout the city of grass ordinances, amongst other things. So we had to kind of prioritize what seems to be the more frequent of complaints. And being that we were coming into the spring, which is about when we started working on this ordinance. Actually, we started it prior to the spring. So we tackled this one, and so ultimately the process that the police department goes through is we'll get a complaint on a long grass complaint. It's usually very clear that it's in violation when you look at it. And so our process is then just to notify the homeowner and let them know that there was a complaint, and they've got, at the time, our ordinance said that there was 10 days to abate that nuisance, and there was a length of 12 inches. So that would ultimately, for the person that filed the complaint, we'd continue to get complaints because nothing's been done about it. And so we were looking for a way to streamline this to make it more of a process. And so changing it to 8 inches is based on what the statute states. Giving people 4 days to do it should cover generally enough time for someone to abate the nuisance before we actually cite somebody. So that's kind of the goal here. We're not out to look for violations. We base them on complaints, and that's the kind of the nuts and bolts of this ordinance. So it's basically to clean up some language to make it a little more streamlined.
Perfect. Thanks, Chief. I will open the public comment portion of the weeds and grass ordinance. Any public comments?
I do, and I also have so first I want to say thank you for listening to our public comments last month. Oh, I'm Laura Milkreski, by the way. Thank you for listening, updating, the native landscapes, and I think you removed some other references to statutes that have been repealed, things like that. However, the change from 72 hours to 4 days, and then also changing 12 inches to 8 inches, really made it stricter, which wasn't really what the public comments were about. So I went through and I found 12 local communities. I looked at what their inches and their time to remedy is. Sort of the median time to remedy, I would say, is 7 regular business days or 7 days. Regular business days, I personally like that language because if it's over a holiday weekend, that doesn't count as one of the days. Quite a few of the communities are also at 10 days. The shortest is 48 hours in Rochester, but that's 12 inches and it's not enforced during no mow May. The next shortest would be 5 business days in Faribault, that's 8 inches. I personally believe that 5 business days is the minimum we should have in the ordinance, and I think 7 regular business days would be more in line with local communities. And then I also wanted to ask about the process. So if someone doesn't comply with the ordinance, who is contracted to mow the lawn, or does the city mow the lawn, or how does that work?
So if it doesn't get abated and there's clearly no movement to do that, then the city can come in, they can mow it, but it's at the owner's expense, whether a bill is sent, and if it's unpaid, then they will ultimately send it to taxes, just like any water bill or anything.
Okay, so they won't contract like any local lawn care?
We haven't so far, and it's been extremely rare that it's gotten to the point where the city came in to mow it. Most people usually take care of it right away, so.
Okay, but that was under the 10 days.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. No further comments? Any questions on anything I said, or? Okay, thank you.
Any more comments on the grass ordinance? I will close the public hearing portion, and we will open up to the unfinished business of ordinance 2024-04, the limited time parking ordinance. Brian, you want to take first?
Sure. Yep. Again, there were a couple of public comments on that. We made a little bit of a change. The 100 feet wording we changed that to reasonably moved. So it's a little bit subjective, but Pat will be able to expound on that a little bit too, what reasonably moved would be. The code committee would like to stick with the 72 hours and then the 24 hours to move a vehicle. And Chief Callahan can explain that as well. Again, he's the code enforcement officer, and he does a very nice job explaining reasons why. So Pat, can you?
Sure. Again, this is another one of the ordinances that we have a lot of complaints that we're required to enforce within the city. Some of the issues involved, things that aren't necessarily a motor vehicle. So there was a lot of tweaking of the language to make it more clear as to, what constitutes a vehicle, what constitutes a violation. And so our overtime, limited time parking was any period after 7 days. So ultimately, what happens is someone calls in a vehicle that's been sitting there for 3 or 4 weeks. And so we go to enforce that. So in order for us to actually cite that vehicle in that violation, we have to witness that violation. There's only so many misdemeanors and petty misdemeanors that you don't have to visually see or be witness to. There's very few. Most of them you have to be witness to. And so we would have to wait another 7 days before we would take any enforcement action. So that's been kind of again, similar to the grass ordinance. The complainant wonders why nothing's happened. Well, we have to wait. Again, our process is typically we get the complaint, we go check the vehicle, we run it, we find out who owns it, make sure it's not stolen, and then we would end up chalking it and then posting kind of like a warning letter that's on the windshield, just a little 1/3 sheet thing. so that that owner is aware that there's a violation there, potentially violation, but we wouldn't be able to enforce it until after the period. So that means we wouldn't be able to cite the vehicle or tow the vehicle. We would have to witness that that vehicle that did not move still, even though we marked it with chalk and then put some sort of indicator that, hey, we checked on your vehicle. Some places will, you know, they'll use a paint marker and they'll put a date and stuff like that on the back window. You'll see that throughout other communities. So that is the reason why we streamline that, because it just seems like 7 days is going to be a longer period of time for the complainant. And so we've tried to put this more in line with what we would do. If the vehicle certainly didn't move, you know, then it's subject to a citation. Usually, I mean, we haven't been too egregious on towing vehicles if we don't have to. I know this has been a problem, especially for our public works department, especially in our public lots, because we have people that actually just store vehicles in public lots because they have nowhere to put the car. And so that seems to be a very common issue, and that public lots fit within our parking ordinance because it's a public use area. So, and then we changed the portion from 100 feet to reasonably moved. 100 feet is too far for someone to have to move their vehicle, especially, you know, if it's in a residential neighborhood. It doesn't seem reasonable that that person has to actually move their vehicle so far away from their house. And, you know, ultimately, they just got to drive it somewhere and park it again, ultimately. It doesn't matter if it's parked in the same spot. Sometimes people do get mistaken when they see a car that's parked in the same spot every day. And, you know, if we get the complaint and shock the tire and it gets moved, it's not a violation. So it's unfounded. But that is the goal in revising this particular ordinance.
Any public comments on the parking ordinance? Yes, sir.
Does this also apply to trailers and campers and whatnot? Or?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so so it applies to any vehicle or a trailer. We've had a number of complaints throughout the community of like campers that are parked there almost all summer, rarely moving, and you know, they often, because of the size, it can be a hindrance to the corners and so forth. So, and the thing is that, you know, people that often complain about these things, they're using our ordinance and expect us to enforce it. So that's another part of cleaning it up, to make sure that it's very clear as to, you know, what we can enforce and what we don't. But we're also working on recreational vehicle ordinance altogether, and that's another thing that'll be coming up in the near future as to how we're going to do that, because we do have a number of issues with how vehicles are parked in yards and so forth. And
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of support this, and maybe support an additional few hours or 5 days. But my greater concern on this is it's kind of an epidemic almost, and people parking on their lawns already in town. And how many more is that going to create? And I've lived in this town 12 years. Just in the last 2 or 3 years, I don't agree with people parking on their lawns in the winter, but especially in the summer. Just walk the extra 10 feet, and that's something I would like to see actually enforcement. I don't think citizens should have to complain. You know, very few people want to be a bad guy. I don't want to call and gripe and take up someone's time, but you come into town off the three roads coming off 52. There's vehicles on every one of those streets coming in, and it looks crappy. It looks poor. I pay probably higher taxes than a lot of places in town. And right now, and one of my neighbors parks daily on their lawn. I've got a fifth wheel trailer that never moves. I've got a dilapidated house. I got junk in the yard, and just so you see these things, I'd like to see some enforcement of the current rules and regulations. So
And so, again, our typical approach is complaint-based. And the reason why is because if it's strictly based on me, who is it affecting? Is it affecting the community, or is it just affecting the officer that enforces it? And I've been down that road in the dismissed cases like that because it didn't bother neighbors. Why did it bother the police? There are certainly cases that are so egregious that you can't, when you see a car that's like missing half of its rear quarter panel, it's been there for 6 months and no one's complained about it, pretty reasonable to take action on it. But that's how we've done it. And so, and it also gives more backing. Whether that person that complains is anonymous or not, that doesn't make a difference. The complaint came from somebody affected by it. So, and I know that the council, they've had complaints of similar things from people in the community to enforce. And certainly that's a reasonable method to enforce it. But there's a number of ordinances that we are reviewing, and we're not moving forward with updating our manual fully until we understand what needs to be taken care of. And it's certainly an important thing that our community has access to all that. And but we need to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row too.
And we live in a nice town, beautiful area, and it'd be nice to see it remain that way. So,
Absolutely, you got it.
Can I just remind council, I think this was before, but Bob and Sarah and I got letters from a resident with 7 or 8 ordinance violations with vehicles. So it's been a continuous issue, and that's why part of this code is addressing with that, to clean up some of them cars. And what was that, 2-3 years ago, we all got a letter, and they went around town, and I think that was before Kevin and Joe. Yeah, so it's been an issue, and that's why we're addressing this issue too. So, any more public comments? Yes, sir.
So yeah, overall, I mean, I like it. I personally would like to see it maybe a matter of like 5 business days, not 72 hours. I think that's a little short and nitpicky personally, if we're gonna keep track of hours. But overall, I think it's probably a good thing. There's a lot of messy stuff around that just gets left. I don't own a camper, I don't own an RV, and I don't have plans of doing that, but I do have a concern for the people that do. A lot of those people bought them with intention of storing them on the street in front of their house during the summer. You see it all over town. I'm sure there's dozens or hundreds of them. People store stuff. We store a car at the fairgrounds. A lot of people literally do not have summer storage. So I guess my comment is, if we do enact this, if you guys could make some type of exception or a permitting process, say, hey, look, this is my camper, I'm gonna park it in front of my house, this is a safe designated spot, and allow those residents to do that at least for the remainder of this year. I just, hate to see everybody getting mad next week that, oh crap, I don't have a place to put my camper. That is just not a good experience for anybody. So, thank you.
But like you said, it's a complaint basis only. So if there's no complaints, the officers are not gonna go out and address that issue until it becomes a complaint.
Yep.
I mean, and that's why I tell you need to get along with your neighbors. I mean, we deal with that on a regular basis. If you don't get along with your neighbors, that's where a lot of the issues come up, so.
Yeah, and that just makes it tough. And that's kind of why I'm saying, just for the remainder of the summer as a patchwork, because people are, already, you can't get into storage right now if you don't already have storage. Some of this stuff books up.
There's a lack of storage space.
Okay, yeah. I don't like to get in the fairgrounds. You've got to have that. If you don't have it the year before, you're not going to get in there. So.
Any more public comments on the parking? Perfect. We'll close the public portions. Now we're going to go back to 9A and have council have discussions and figure out what we want to do on the ordinance 2024-03, amending the weeds and grass ordinance. Council, comments, ideas?
I appreciate all the comments, but I think that's why we have the code committee, and they've gone through all this and done it. And for me, it's like, just mow your lawn every other week, and then there's not the problem. So, and these are mostly for people who are problems. It's not the random, or most, it's the 0.01% of the town doesn't mow their lawn, and it's not, I think that 4 days is plenty of time to get your lawn mowed, basically. And this isn't for the, most people.
It's for very, very few percentage, and it puts things in writing for people to see and take care of. And I'm sure Chief it's not many people. It's not many times that it happens.
Oh,
Where
it's
actually gonna be followed
usually,
through.
like Sarah said, there's a lot of like repeat offenders that just don't take care of their property. And it's the same people complaining about it usually. And so, but time gets away, rain gets heavy. Sometimes it does get long, but we're trying to do it as reasonably as we can.
In the code committee discussion, the very first time we passed it, we were not unanimous in our decision, but with the adding of the native grasses specifically, having an option for that and giving it a 4-day window versus just a 3-day for the recovery of the yard, it was unanimous passing through the committee this time, so.
Dylan?
I'm kind of with Sarah on the, if the committee has done some work on it, and I'd have to kind of think that what they've done, and with it not being a large amount of the citizens that are going and violating the ordinance 4 days, seems reasonable to try to get it mowed.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-03. I'll second it.
Any further discussions?
Right. Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. I want to just thank the public for their comments and the work that you guys have done and what council and the code committee has done. Let's jump back to 9B, ordinance 2024-04, amending the limited time parking ordinance. Comments by council, opinions, ideas.
Okay, so I'm questioning, Pat, you said that, so you have to visually see it, and then that's 7 days? And then this
We
72
have to
hours will
have
come into
that
play?
violation. We have to witness that violation. So that's why we would jock it so that if it moves any reasonable amount, that chalk's not going to be on that tire anymore. So.
I might be wrong, but, so it's been sitting there for like a month, and then someone complains, and then now it's gotta be 7 more days. And so it's getting, it's these repeat offenders or people who park their, they've got they're blocking parking in the public lots, and they've got they have 4 flat tires and it's sitting there, things like that. It's not really for you parked in front of your house for a week because you were on vacation or something. It's not for that. It's for these kind of repeat offenders that take advantage of.
And it's the same thing our public works complain about, cars sitting in their public parking.
That's
for a
what
long
I
period of
was
time
thinking,
too,
yeah.
versus just the streets. I know Larry has come a couple times, especially with the parking lot next to.
Well, and I know, with that's bad, but like where Jill lives,
Yeah,
and Pearl
that
Street, where
cul-de-sac.
that cul-de-sac, so people sell stuff there. So they have a bunch of cars there for 7 days, and they're in the way, and so I
And they
know
don't
they've
even live
had a
there.
lot of problems. She was super happy with the 72 hours because, it'll get them out of there in a more timely manner. So.
I mean, I know this week I had somebody complain about the camper right out here on West 3rd, right next to, they called me and said, how do I complain? I said, direct it to the non-emergency, don't call 911 on that, but, and I think you guys got the call, didn't you? Yeah, so, I mean,
We're still under the old ordinance, so we gotta wait till that timeline runs out.
And how long was it sitting there prior to the complaint?
Probably 3 weeks.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the purpose of some of these,
On these ones, the shortening of that window still effectively, there's a long period of time before anybody complains about it, that people can still sit there. And it's really targeting specifically the lots that certain people are using as public storage instead of public parking, which is its intended purpose. So that's the main goal of that 72.
You're always so much better at concisely saying what I want to say, Kevin. It amazes me.
We've been talking about this for how long?
Yeah.
Right, but he's so concise. It's so good.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2024-04 for the parking.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. Again, I want to thank the public for their comments and the police department and the code department for their time and effort on that. Let's jump to 9C, 2025 budget discussions. Kim, do you want to go first?
No changes from our work session, what we discussed. So I haven't heard any questions from you. So we'll just keep pressing forward, waiting to see if anything comes up. Occasionally during the year, we have something crop up that is unforeseen. Hopefully we won't, but we'll keep in touch with that. So we'll have another work session in August to discuss this.
I think we got that set up. Was it the 13th, 14th?
14. Day after the election.
Perfect. Any questions or comments on the budget discussion, council? Perfect. Let's jump to new business, 10A, Resolution 2024-22, approve the North Zumbro Sanitary District annexation. Bill, do you have anything else to comment on that?
Other than this would be the time for the council to ask any of their questions.
Once again, I think we've been working on it for a little bit, and we've asked some questions, probably in work session and meetings, so.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-20-22.
Any further discussions? We'll do roll call. Sarah?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Joan? Kevin?
Aye.
And I passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Bill, on that. 10B, Resolution 2024 A and B, approved Chapa annexation request. Bill, you got a note or two?
Time for any council questions. Note that there are two resolutions because the property is split. Part of it is in Zumbrota Township and part of it is in Pine Island Township. Hence the two resolutions.
So do we have to vote those A and B, or can we do them all, Matt?
Do them separate.
Separate,
Yeah, I
okay.
gotta fill out the.
I'll make a motion to resolution 2024-23, part A.
Second.
Any further discussions? So we'll do roll call. Sarah?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And I passes 5-0-0. Let's do resolution 2024-23B.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Sarah?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Bill. Let's go to 10C, set a public hearing for annexation of a portion of a right-of-way along Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Bill?
Brian, if you could go to page 62 of the PDF. So we are asking the council to set a public hearing date for August 15th. After we submitted the Champa information to the state, there's a small portion of right-of-way that is outside of the Champa property. So this is actually public right-of-way that'll be annexed into the city. You can kind of see there in the bottom there, that little arrow. It's just a tiny little sliver of land. That's currently township road right-of-way that will become city road right-of-way. So there's no property owner attached to this. So, but as annexation, we still have to complete the same process. So asking you to set a public hearing.
For August 15th at 6:05 roughly?
And this is Pine Island Township.
This is Pine Island Township, correct?
Is that orderly or annexation by ordinance?
I believe it will be orderly.
You're doing all three orderly then? Okay.
Yes.
What was that date?
August 15th.
I'll make a motion to, or set that public hearing. And date.
Got a second with Joan. Any further discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill. Let's do 10D, CHAPA pre-development agreement. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. So in your packet is a pre-development agreement. So you might ask, why are we having a pre-development agreement? Typically, what would happen in a normal process is after we annexed in property, the developer would then propose a plat, and then we would have a development agreement. Our timeline was, being the city, is that we wanted to construct 9th and Jefferson this year. So in 2024, we were hoping that through discussions with the Champas that they would be ready to come forward with a preliminary plat. They are not ready at this time, but our project, we want to proceed. So in the absence of development agreement, both parties, it's in the best interest of the city of Zumbrota and it's in the best interest of the Champas that we spell out all the terms that are going to be in this future agreement. So this is what this is. And again, the focal point of this is the land transfer that will occur. So the Champas will be transferring to the city 1.94 acres plus right of way, and it's already there. The right of way being, the hairpin turn, et cetera, to the city. In lieu of that, the city will not be assessing them to build the road. The city will, though, be assessing them for the sewer and water, which we're going to act on later tonight. And then there's some other provisions in here that are spelled out as well. This one is complicated enough with enough moving parts. We did have Councilmember Priege and Mayor Hamel involved in the discussions as well. Again, just to make sure we're getting feedback on this because, again, there's a lot of provisions in here. So this one is Brian's recommendation, but Brian's recommendation to approve this. So again, answer any questions or any comments from the council. And then we do not have a time frame from the Champas, but I would expect to see something coming back from them in the next couple months is what they've told us.
As a development.
As a development, correct. But now we have everything spelled out on paper, so we're in a good position for the city.
I'll make a motion to approve the pre-development plan and agreement with the Champas. Champas? How do you say it? Champas?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let's go a little bit more exciting news. Let's do 10E, the 2024 Covered Bridge Festival.
Fun stuff.
The fun stuff. Getting ready for that. Holly.
I'm just here to officially, ask if we can have a festival for the town of Zumbrota on the weekend of September 21st, 22nd of 2024. And just kind of give you the spiel of what we have planned. It will be similar to what we've been doing the last couple of years. So we moved it to a fall festival, being a Saturday and Sunday event. I'll give you a little recap of some of the stuff we have planned that we'll be redoing. So the 5K, 10K on Saturday morning that should be able to go out through the park and back. I think that's what we were able to do last year as well. We'll have some sports stuff going on down there. We'll do the vendors and music and all that stuff in the park. Intentions to have fireworks again on Saturday night. Sunday would be the repeat of the car show up in this area, and the parade in the afternoon on Sunday. So a real similar lineup to what we have been doing the past few years. So logistically, just kind of getting some approvals on, we'll say, road closures and then the permits that will go forward, and we're in the works of getting. I guess, are there any questions or comments on how things have gone in the past of the festival?
It's been great. I mean, I know after last year's, it was a lot of great comments and beautiful weather, which helped.
We've been blessed in the September festival, so hopefully we will continue to be. Okay, I will just kind of hit up some of the things that we are, again, asking for permission on. One of the, I won't say new, but changing. So last year we did the fire department water fights after the parade, right in front of East Park. They would like, the fire department would like to move it to Saturday, so it's a little bit more prime time. And the location being First Street, right in front of VFW. Yeah, First Street East, so between Gherkins and the VFW on that little guy. So between right here, so, and I don't know how much room it needs,
So it
but
will probably be
off the
right in
road
the
a little.
end where the sidewalk is, towards where east, where that building where the trash goes. Make sure we leave a way where we can get to the parking lot in the back. As we do need, we might not need, but enough space to do the dump trucks, enough for them to get their barrel back and forth and all that for for the water fights and go from there.
And I assume the VFW has been asked and okayed with that?
I did speak with Matt, and he said it was fine. So, yeah, so.
So I think time frame on that for them to get set up, they were looking at probably about 1 PM on Saturday. The intentions of the water fights going from maybe 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, or it's hard to say how long because they don't have all the teams in yet.
Yep, it kind of depends on how many teams come in. Last year, as it was on a Sunday and it was later after the parade, we're hoping for a better turnout, as we did here this year down in Mazeppa. More groups, more towns were talking about it, so we're excited to kind of have, hopefully, more people show up from more towns around the area, from other fire departments, and being on a Saturday. So it kind of depends how many teams show up. It could be a little longer. So we just want to leave enough time and then also have the kids, have a little bit of fun, after that. So if we do get done a little earlier, then we will, but we just want to have enough time to tear down everything and put everything away as well.
So I think like 1 to 7 was the tentative. Could we have that section closed?
And then I don't know how you want to act on these. Maybe we get the whole laundry list and you can act on
Yeah,
the
I've ones got,
you're able to act on.
yeah, a little laundry list. So I don't know if you want to hit
Unless you
them
want to
as we
approve
go.
As we go.
Might be easier than we are.
Yeah.
Then we're past.
Because there's
We're
going to be
have
a
to do them
couple
all
of them.
separate
Yeah,
anyway,
there's going to be a
so
couple of them,
Okay.
so.
I'd make a motion to approve a street closure on East First Street from 1 to 7 on Saturday, September 21st.
Yes, there, Sergeant.
I've got a concern from our police department side for that location, girls.
And yeah,
With it abutting to the state highway, closing off that access from east, you're essentially gonna have to close off East Avenue all the way down at Second to get people redirected around it. Is there any reason you couldn't use First Street east of East Avenue towards that gravel there, just to keep traffic to be able to freely flow? Otherwise, you're gonna have people coming south on Main who aren't gonna realize,
so like this.
yeah, use that stretch. 'Cause otherwise,
Right in
people
front of the
coming
parking
south
lot.
on Main aren't gonna realize that that's closed until last minute with all the chaos of the vehicles that we had parking on Main last year. You're gonna have traffic back up there that's gonna interfere with your pedestrian crossing. And then people who are on east trying to get back out to Main, they're gonna end up going up to First thinking that they can make that left, when instead we're gonna send them down to the brush dump to turn around.
Could we close east so they don't go in there? I just don't want to eliminate the parking, I guess, because I thought we couldn't. So that's why leave a way so they can get through back there. So that's why, that's why I thought we could leave a gap.
That would
But-
kind of close off the dump too, and I don't know how many
Yeah.
people go to the dump that day, but.
So that's
For a
why,
couple hours, the dump could be closed.
okay, so that's why I wasn't.
I don't know how-
Yeah, so I
I'm just
wasn't
thinking
sure.
public safety wise, for cars coming with the state highway, it's gonna be a mess, and it's already a mess with people parking the entire way to the festival and
Yeah.
having your pedestrian cross.
So could we close then to where, where the parking lot of where like the Goose or Ace is there, park, from there, so then nobody goes back there?
In theory, yeah, you could, but then you're taking all the parking away from the VFW, you're closing and affecting Gherkins.
This way, why don't you do it this way?
Can we do it from East Avenue from First to Second?
sorry,
That's
I
along
was
the elevator.
very
Because the
confused.
water access, I think we were looking at, the water access, I think
when I was looking at, I think Radke was helping me, there's access right here and right there, where we have them in between, that'd be the better place. And trying, so that's why in the more flatter area that we need is where we need. So that's where we found this is where it's more flat.
I was looking at this totally wrong. I thought you were doing it on East Avenue, right behind the green bins.
Nope, so it's right on First, right in front of that side door, you can say, of the VFW, going,
Street to
yeah,
East
because
Avenue.
this is the flattest area.
Well, it is on the other side too. I'm saying, could you do it just right around the corner there?
It's not as, because we were trying to find as flat of an area that we can find. So that's why.
Okay.
And that's where this part works pretty good for us. And the water access everywhere else.
The other concern I wanted to talk with you too is I think we did pretty well on our pedestrian safety crossing, up the way last year. So, our concern as a committee was now we're gonna have to add another potential crosswalk, a lot more signage right there because we worry
100%,
that
and especially
that
if
a lot
you
of people are gonna
go
be
where
walking
you
on there.
want to go, you're gonna have to have more signage.
Yeah.
So
And another probably attendant area.
correct,
So we had some concerns too, and we are still
I don't
kind of.
agree with that site from a law enforcement standpoint. Sorry, Danny.
No,
I just don't think
I
it's a
mean,
safe spot.
No, that's fine, I mean,
Yeah.
I can,
So that's what we're here first to talk and plan because it's a new location.
But I also think that road is not highly traveled necessarily. I think if the signage is there and we do another crosswalk there, but I understand
You have to remember, you're working with MinDOT, who does not want you putting signs on their right of way. They do not want you to, technically, we're not supposed to put the crosswalk signs that we borrow from the school in the middle of Highway 50. So I think we're asking for issues with that. I think if we used East Avenue and left First Street open would be a better idea than closing First Street.
But does that eliminate the need for a crossing there?
Potentially, because people could still access both of the VFW lots then.
And we might have to see how it goes too, how busy it is. If there's a lot of traffic, we might have to add some flag people. But yeah, they have to have water sources.
Yep.
So they were looking at ideas and this was one of them. So I guess we can continue to do a drawing board or, put a pin in this one if.
can we move them signs out of the right of way? So you're up to by that donation box? So they at least have a couple cars and do no parking there, so if somebody does turn, they can at least turn there and turn around. So we basically, where that donation box is, close it from there back. Cause then we get out of the right of way.
These lines,
The other thing you can do too is get permission from the state.
well, yeah, but these lines don't roughly show the right of way. These are the property lines. Excuse me.
Do those have
So right in there.
the fire hydrants on there? Do you see them?
the boys have them.
I mean, I
They have
like
an
that
app.
idea.
Yeah, because of the proximity to the
And that's
covered
what-
bridge.
Yeah, and
That's
that's why
what
we were
But I also,
thinking.
I like
Yeah.
Tony's concern at the safety issue, because you got that bridge, cars parked there, I understand all that.
Yeah.
What's the correct answer?
And maybe we'd keep working with Tony on that and we come back and ask about street approval in a couple weeks.
Because if we move the close sign up to that donation box, we can do it from basically there to the dumpsters or to East Avenue if they have enough space. You'll be able to use the parking lot for parking too.
I don't think that'll be enough room from what I
I don't know.
intended for the barrel shoot.
No.
They need that much of a strip.
Yeah, probably a whole block.
Have you looked at West Avenue here at all? I know you'd be losing some of your parking and walking access, but if you're only doing it for a couple hours, you know,
Where?
right out here.
They're using that. Out here?
Yep.
They're using that. So that's why. That's why our option was there.
Could you put food stands there, right? Food trucks up
Are you,
there?
what are you talking about, Tony?
Just inside these windows, right here on.
Yeah, so
That was our first thought. That's why I asked. So that's why we were kind of, we brought our
we
different
have,
options.
intentions for a little bit more going on up here. The library's got stuff going on. I don't know exactly timing on Saturday. It's not entirely off the table if it were in the afternoon. The other concern we had was it makes it a little bit tricky to get in, or, if you're coming into the park and you want to enter on the bridge, but workable.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
ask that we have some more time to discuss safety before the council asks, just from the public safety side. I'm okay with
But that takes it away from
down here.
everything,
Okay.
so that's why.
Oh, I guess their fire hall is downtown.
Yeah, so that's why.
Just trying to keep it central.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where everybody can just go get something to eat, come back, kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, well, let's put a pin in that and we'll keep working on options and maybe as we finalize this area, this might work too, potentially. So put a pin in that. I'll move on to my next closure ask. The car show is going to continue to be on Sunday in this area, which has been incredibly successful the past few years. Of course, they, have intentions to continue to have more cars. But I think it was a little bit of a pedestrian safety issue again with 2nd Street. So do you mind, do you still have the?
I've got it.
Let's see. So here's Nielsen's. So this street remains open, and there's cars parked all here. They had cars parked all along here, and they'd like to continue to park cars here. So this was just a really risky area with crossing, and they had their their cross people, but he said, well, I almost got hit. And so we'd really like to continue to pursue closing that stretch. I don't know where I am now again. Here. I know that that's a truck route and that's always been the issue. So.
And that's gonna be a county road, so I mean, we as city can't make a decision on that.
So I guess we are aware that it is a county need and probably a tricky one.
That one would be probably tough.
But it's a tough safety spot and there's not a lot of other places for them to expand on. We can continue to beef up the signage for flags and whatnot. But last year felt a little bit unsafe with the pedestrians crossing and.
How about going up East Avenue, because we could have a better idea or opinion closing that intersection up there on, was it 3rd? Close it from 2nd to 4th or something, if you have 2 blocks of road that's in front of the tattoo, and move your car show them 2 blocks.
On West Avenue.
On West Avenue, sorry, from like 1st to 3rd, is it?
So this, oops.
Again, I think they're trying to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it local.
Because we have the bulk right
There's
here.
a lot of car room space here, and you just do it
Yeah. So I think they could fit almost 100 right here.
Well, what about if we opened up the city parking too? That would add more, so it wouldn't be so.
They're already in there.
They are? Oh, I didn't.
That was all the way through. It was.
Really, I just saw it in the.
Yeah, I think that. Even if they don't park on that road, it felt still heavily trafficked with cars. And so they were like, it would just, there's lots of people walking. And so.
That heavy traffic is where it gets tough to close it too.
No, the other trouble we've had in the years is Jefferson's been under construction. So there really wasn't a reroute option. We now are finished. And so we could put those signs way back on Jefferson that if, I know it's a truck route. that the trucks continue on
I mean,
Jefferson.
if you can get county, then we'll probably be open. It's just gonna be getting it through the county to close.
I guess, could we have permission to approach the county? And by that, I mean the Ford people are taking this on. He was unable to be here tonight. He said he could come back, but,
I mean, if the county, I don't think you need permission from us.
okay,
Much have to say.
Yeah.
well, we'll try.
So let us know.
You know, what, being.
But I agree with the concerns with the traffic and that being a busy road, so if we can get it closed, more the merrier.
Time frame was, 7 a.m. to 2 or so. 2 o'clock would probably be good because they're done with the show by 1, so they could even open it probably at 1:30. But, okay, I will pass that along and see if we can make any progress. Again, it's helpful it's hard to get so many volunteers to help at those crosswalks. So we want to keep the people safe.
Number one goal.
Yeah, next is the parade would be Sunday, East Avenue. We're gonna do that same route from Jefferson, and I think we shortened it a little to go to 4th Street, so we wouldn't have to shut that County 10. We plan to repeat that route and request to shut down East Avenue from 2 p.m. to 4:30. The parade starts at 3. It's probably about an hour. We'll
Our notes
continue.
say 1 to 4:30.
It's probably more than we need, but we'll have signage up and then again, work with you guys on our barricades and some fine tuning of what we did last year. I think we've talked about stuff already, so.
Do we have any problem with closing this one?
It is Jefferson to 5th.
We almost closed it a little too good in some spots, so.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me back home.
That's what a lot of people said that. I'm remembering now. Why is it that like this?
So ID had offered to come and help park their cars, but it was like one guy and he had about 20 cars parked. So
It took them a while.
it took him a while to get them moved, and our communication wasn't clear enough at the beginning on, hey, we got to pull those back as soon as the parade's done, so people couldn't get past the cars. So I don't think we would, we've kind of discussed a little bit, but we'll work with Tony again or the police department on barricades to just keep safety.
I think it was because people wanted to like sit, when
Maybe.
some people will like to sit in the road,
Mhm.
it adds a lot more space. And they were like, but they
There's a
couldn't
car.
because they would be in the road because they parked it like right at the end. So you couldn't,
Yeah.
park back a little bit so people could sit there.
To do the cars again, just,
Well, let's vote on the time. I think that's one that we can okay, if everybody agrees on that time on closing East Avenue from 5th to Jefferson from roughly 1 to 4:30. And Holly and the committee will.
Yes. I said 4th, but you're correct, 5th Street.
Holly will take care of any road blockage with their PD and or Tony, so.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0, so we got 1 out of 3 done already.
Park preparations, really, I work with Mike on this, as far as getting the park ready. They've done awesome at mowing and clearing out things and making it look beautiful. Volleyball courts we intend to use again, so just getting fine tuning of that. And then basketball courts. I do have a question for you, Mike. Do you know if those hoops can get raised? So the style of hoop that you have has started to sag because of people probably hanging on it. So I don't know if there's a way that it can be raised back up to hit the 10 feet, at any point in time, or at least by the festival. And then I think you painted lines for us too last year. We are not doing pickleball, so I don't need the pickleball painted unless you want to, but at least the basketball.
That work for you, Mike? And Mike and the park staff or the street guys do a great job.
Yep, they do awesome for us. So I can kind of work with him almost that I don't think I need specific approval other than thank you for the help on that and for garbages that I work with Brian on getting those set up. The library, lot, I guess, just to talk about closure during the weekend.
So I mentioned this to a few board members of mine when I saw this memo. The Sunday is fine, we're closed on Sundays as it is, but they were not in favor of any closure on Saturday. Because we're open all day for one thing, we do have some programs, and my experience has been also that parking is already really tight there on that day. But also elderly, handicap, accessibility would then be removed, and that would probably be illegal itself, so. So
Yeah.
short of closing the library the whole day, which I don't think we want to do on that day.
Okay. The reason for our change or like interest in that this year was we were going to be doing, so we've got the food vendors are set up near in the grass space here. We were just going to have a little bit more kid entertainment. We'll say just right out this window, kind of the grass area. But really that isn't parking space. We were thinking about doing kind of a farmer's market like vendor setup near your parking lot space, but it's something that just has a few more logistics we haven't got into, and we won't. What we'll do is just plan on keeping that section open for parking, maybe just limiting some of the entry on, or just having them park
Yeah,
there.
so like, if maybe you cut off a little bit of parking, say at this end or something like that, that would be okay, but really, like I said, the parking's really tight as it is, and the library board didn't want to close it off entirely.
Thank you, that sounds fine. Okay.
If you have a game plan or get something you want or put there, talk to James.
And we'll just make
Yeah.
a map out of exactly our intentions and make sure we still have the space that makes sense.
Sure.
So.
Well, I do want to make sure too, are you sure you even really want to be eliminating parking spots right by the bridge like that anyway? Because it gets tight anyway on that day, and taking all that out, everyone's going to be parking all the way in, and they're going to flow into Nielsen's, and Nielsen's probably not going to be real happy about that. So just throwing that out there. But
I guess I thought, Saturday is busier, but we do it on Sunday. And so it's kind of like, well, we make it work on that day, but it's a different volume of crowd on Saturday than it is Sunday. So, okay. We have a lot of, vendors that we set up in the morning in the park, and just, they leave at the end of the day. And so we are wondering and maybe I just work with the city on this, but is there a way that we can go out the back towards the pool instead of having all of them drive through and,
Drive.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything up there that we can,
It's a hill and.
I know we got new paths, so I mean, I'm not too hip of vehicles driving over the walking path with it being
where
new
are you?
paved.
Oh, will you back out just a little bit so I can see the vendor area? I'll show you what we did last year.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll let it load. I think, so here is like the walking path that's brand new. And we put all of the vendors in here. And what we did to just escape last year, because this is full of food vendors and people walking. So driving through here was a non-negotiable. We did that 2 years ago and it's terrible. So what they did was they're parked in the grass and they scooted over and went this way. Not on the rink, but they kind of were able to escape with the grass, which is doable. But I was just wondering, could we just have them take the road? Is there a way we can get to this parking lot or wherever the pool is? Like, can you take this road anywhere to escape this way instead of going over the grass and heading out this way?
I don't think, not right now. Maybe in a year, if we have a temporary.
It's really steep there. I just don't,
Yeah.
steep there.
Have you, I mean, is
Part
there,
of the problem is with, that's what it's used for is, there'll be people walking on that trail too. I would be a little concerned of them going up the hill and maybe people coming
And you're talking about this little path, and I haven't been over there super lately. So the little path up to the pool. Is that,
Correct.
and maybe, yeah. Maybe it isn't even.
I like that
far.
idea if it's doable, but
Yeah, it looks farther on here than I thought. Oh, I guess kind of right. Yeah, it's a little snugger than I was thinking. So if pedestrian wise, it was okay to do what we did last year, but I thought if there was a route, this would be a nice way to say, hey, we're gonna have flags and you go back that way and see ya. Like, you know, we've got people making sure they don't get run over, but maybe this is
Maybe
too.
this is something that you talk to Mike about too and
Yeah,
see
and
what
I'd be happy to work with him on that too.
best thing to do.
We can walk that together if that's okay, to just move on and work with the city on that. I think the only real ask that we were gonna run by you is, you know, we have a lot of food vendors and trucks again, and with this little outlet electrical pole unit that you have in the middle, it's got 250-watt connectors, and we were curious if that one could hold an additional 50. It's got a heck of a lot of 120s, but all these food trucks and everything uses the 50s. So just curious, we were incredibly grateful for the installation of those last year. So if that would be a possibility to just get one more additional one added to this
on
light
this
pole.
pole right out here, you're talking about, Brian and I talked about it a little bit. Mike, do you know how much that cost was to put that in roughly? And can they do another 50?
Yeah, so is it possible? And
I think last year they put 2 in at the, on the Park Road. I want to say it was like $1,300 or something.
more in than 2. I think we put a lot in.
So Brian and I talked about it, and my opinion is, the city used to run this festival, and it wasted a lot of city time and hours doing this. Now, since we have Holly, and has done a great job, that, do we have money, can we find money to put another 50 in there? For it's there, and we're gonna continue doing this festival, that maybe as a city, we can put another one in there, or 2, is my opinion on that.
If it fits, yeah.
Because I don't think with it growing and having more vendors, that I think as a city, and not our city staff dealing this and staffing, because I know the first year I was mayor, I think Kim's hair got real gray that year doing that, and I know she was grateful, and there was other issues why we had to go away from it. So I think as a city standpoint, and it drives people to our town, it drives our residents and our community being together, that we should or could look at the option of putting at least 1 more or 2 more at a city expense, is my opinion.
And there is the installation cost to consider, but we believe that there's a monthly cost to have those there. Is that correct or not correct?
I have one on my building, so if anyone needs a spot, you can come there.
So that's my opinion on that 50 watt on the pole.
Can we just find out more information on it and see what it would cost us?
Yeah. I mean, and it's, just get a point, but my opinion is that as a city, and I know Kim is glad that she's not doing this anymore. So I
It's a
just
lot of
think,
work. Thank you.
yeah.
You guys would do
So I
that.
just think that Brian and I talked about it, and that was kind of the opinion that, hey, I mean, if it's 30,000, let's talk about it, but if it's 1,000 or 2, even $2,500 saves us a lot of time from city, Miranda, and everybody else doing it, so that's my opinion. But I agree with Bob, Mike, can you get bids? Will you use Shane's or something like that, or whoever?
Ask you where he is, Richard.
So,
I'll check into it.
yeah, could you just get us some prices, even if there's monthly prices and stuff like that, where we kind of know where it's at? Does that work for council? So hopefully we can have a decision by next council. Is that a couple weeks okay for you, Mike? Okay, perfect.
That, yeah, I want to work with the police on some things, but I don't think I need to go over that with you. So
Tony's the man and chief.
Yeah. Thank you for all of your support on those things. Thank you for the electricity installation last year. Again, it's a huge draw to have all those food trucks and just, we've been able to build that up. And I think each year we're able to replicate and build on it.
And I
it's a
think
good
it makes
thing
it
for us.
easier. I think it makes it easier to have them plugins versus 13 generators running around.
And it's a noise thing too, so it's nice to not have all that. So we are extremely appreciative of what was able to be installed last year, and like we thought, this one has so few, maybe we could even swap out what's there, because there's a lot of 121. So that is all that I have. Thank you for your time. I didn't plan to talk so long, so thank you.
Any questions for Holly? She does a great job.
Why no pickleball? I mean, I
Well-
don't play, but I'm just curious.
So it seemed to be really intimidating for people last year to sign up for an actual tournament. They kind of were like, oh, you know, that I like playing, but I don't want to do the tournament. So we didn't have a huge crowd on that. We outsourced the actual tournament people who ran it. And I don't think they felt like it was extremely worth their time. So I think we'll probably encourage this social, like, hey, you can come play pickleball again. We'll set up the nets, but yeah, as far as we were going to try to work with like Earl Mack and see if he could, you know, they've already got, I think, a league or something, you know, that play. So maybe if he has some interest taking it on, but we haven't had a lot of momentum on it. And
I was just curious. I've
Yeah.
never played, but I was just like, you said no pickleball this year.
yeah, and I shouldn't say that that's final, but we haven't pursued the company that we used last year. So it would be more of a open pickleball is probably what it might be. So thank you. So I will just maybe follow up with emails or calls, Mike and Brian. And then as far as the quote, do you want me to come back to get the approval after your quotes, or how, will you just keep in touch with me on?
I just think
The
once you get
voting?
the quotes, I mean, you don't necessarily be
me
here
or
because I think
something?
we're all on the same page and council can make a decision of what they want to do or not on that.
That sounds great.
And then they can let you go or let you know.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And let me go too.
But we'll want you back to talk about the water.
The water.
fight
The water
thing,
fight,
right?
yep.
The water
we'll
fight, yeah.
straighten- Yep,
Figure out
we're
a plan
gonna,
and how work needs to
we'll
go.
work on that
And
further.
Work with Tony then too on that as well.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks, Holly. Let's jump to the Festival Temporary Liquor License. I believe South by Southeast, LTS Brewing, and Zumbro Falls Winery have applied and got all their paperwork in, correct?
Yep.
So I
waiting for
just
approval.
needed approval for them three for liquor license. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0.
I forgot to ask about fireworks. Do you give permission for fireworks? Do you need,
I think you have to, they have to have their permit in place and then.
he might be submitting or submitted. Okay, I heard it was in the works, so, okay,
I think so.
Is that
okay,
what they do, Mike? Is that, okay, yeah.
okay.
Remember,
It was on
one of
my-
you brought it in last time.
Yeah, I think, I
Yeah.
remember it.
It was on my list and I just wanted to make sure I didn't need to, yep, it's the same guy we've had, so he knows what paperwork and will work with the fire department for safety again. So, okay, thanks.
Do you need me to have a band on Saturday night again? Or are
I
you
think
gonna
that
have
Terry's
a
been
band?
trying to connect with somebody at your place to do that, because we're gonna have band until fireworks, so we don't have anything planned after
Okay.
fireworks.
I just didn't want to have something and then you went, well, we're having a thing. Okay.
That would be awesome. If, I'll tell Terry to swing it, maybe. Thanks.
Perfect, thanks, Holly.
Take care.
Let's jump to 10G, manage IT contract. I was told Mike is gonna do all the talking. No, Brian, sorry. Brian, you wanna take care of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, we went out for RFPs for managed IT contracts, and we reviewed, was it 4 of them? I believe. Kevin took a look at them as well. James and I went through them. And the one that stood out was On-Site Computers, and Mike Bowe, he's in attendance tonight. We've got a ton of technology now, a lot more than we had 4 years ago when I got here. And so we have to keep it going. If it goes down, we're kind of at a standstill with billing and emails and communications and all that stuff. So it's essential to have a technology partner who has an intimate knowledge of our workings. We've been working so far with on-call as needed with Marco, and it's been okay, but we're not intimately knowledgeable about our whole system. So we wanted to get a partner that would come in and do that. And Onsite offers all of that and value in the unlimited remote labor. And we also have an opportunity where we pay for some block time, but we can bank that, and that'll be used mostly for if we need something on site. And so, yeah, they'll dig into all of our technology, make recommendations, give us some education. They've got a whole array of online education things that we can send out to employees. There's also some phishing stuff that they do, and there's other educational things. All kinds of opportunities to send things out.
James
So
and Kevin
went over it,
both
yep.
went over it. And
Yeah.
Yep, and also Onsite is the technology provider for several other area cities, and they speak highly of Mike and the company. So if you wanted to give a speech, you certainly could. Or if there's
No,
any
Sarah's ready to do a
questions.
motion. We gotta move this thing along.
You've been through this quite
I know.
extensively, but okay.
I told him I'd get him on right away in, well, hour and a half. So
Hopefully, we won't have to see you very often. I hate to say that about a person, but.
You're one of them.
Just so the biggest emphasis is to give people a call. When there's a problem, don't sit there and try to fix it yourself. No, just call. It makes it worse. Yep.
Yeah, so we're just looking for, approval to move forward with the contract. You've got that in front of you. We were anticipating this, and we worked it into the budget over the years, correct, Kim? And so it won't break any part of the budget. But it will be nice to have someone that we can, that actually knows exactly and be able to pinpoint stuff when we call, and anybody will be able to call, with issues, and they'll get us fixed up quickly. So with your permission, we'll move forward with the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the managed IT contract with, what are they called again?
Onsite.
Onsite.
I got one quick question. Kim and James, you guys recommend this and it's necessary?
Well, I wanted managed IT for 12 years.
Okay.
It's necessary. I mean,
Okay.
it truly is. We're probably about the only city that doesn't have managed IT service or IT personnel.
Because you got two other cities around, Cass and Byron, Lennon.
Yeah, and we do about 15, 16 different city governments in this area, right here, southern Minnesota. So it's, the environment has changed dramatically to the point that I always tell people in your position, I don't want to see your name in the paper because I don't want my name in the paper. That's really what it comes down to, it because the security is nothing to take lightly. The idea is to keep your data safe.
And this will free up some of James's time too. Because he's been our in-house go-to guy with things like password changes and a whole lot of stuff. So.
I'll second.
You got a motion on Sarah?
I'll second.
Any more questions or concerns with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Brian. Kevin.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Let's go 10H Jefferson Drive pay request bill.
Thank you, Mayor. This is pay request number
11, this project we're dwindling down and we're kind of getting our last couple items. So this is work that was done for pavement markings or striping and shrub work that was completed this spring. We'll probably have one, maybe two more, again, as we're finishing up our punch list items. So recommendation is to approve this pay request for $23,190.75 to Schumacher Excavating.
What was that budget on that? 5.2 was it roughly? It was, I mean, we're still under it, right?
We're still under budget, correct?
I will then make a motion to approve the request number 11.
I'll second that.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
10I, let's do Mill and Sixth Street pay requests.
Routine pay request, this will bring us to about 1/3 spent. All our pay requests lag behind a month, so even rain aside, we're still progressing. When I did talk to Blake, our field engineer, and Scott Schumacher, they felt we were ahead of schedule. Now we're just on schedule. So the main thing being that we need to have mill done before school starts. So we could use a little bit of some dry spells here. So what's recommended is approve the pay request in the amount of $327,535.72 to Schumacher Excavating.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor.
10J, ordinance 2024-06, amended accessory structures ordinance. Brian?
Yes, you've got my memo there. That kind of explains the whole thing. We've been kicking this around for a while, so you all know what it is. Just let me get to do it on the computer here.
Miranda is gone. This is awful.
No, Kim did a good job. I just didn't want to go all the way back to the top. There is the home button, so.
There's no button, yeah.
It's that little, it's the one down in the bottom of the page, the long rectangle is the button.
I don't have that.
Oh, shoot. Oh yeah, I think you have like the enhanced view or something on that thing. I don't know what happened, but.
I'm just trying to find it. Anyway, found it.
The ordinance, again, the discussion started a while back about whether or not we have an ordinance in place now that allows 2 accessory structures or 2 accessory buildings. That's a whole nother deal too, but allowed on a residential lot or site or parcel. And the discussion was, well, can big lots support, or can we have more than one or more than those 2 accessory buildings on a big lot? And if so, what size lot would support how many buildings? I think the spirit of the ordinance is to not look cluttered and junky and have these buildings all over the place. So we came up with 0 acres to 0.75, which is a lot. 90% of the lots in town probably, or maybe more, would stay with the 2. You get 2. That's the way it is currently. 0.76 to 1.24 would be 3, and 1.25 and up. I don't even know if we have any of those in city limits that are bigger than a 1.25 would be allowed for detached accessory structures. That went to the code committee and they agreed with it and passed it along to council.
Kevin, you have any more insight on that?
I think it's a good plan. There's 2 proposals that we fished through. One was 0 to anything under 1 acre got 2, and we kind of broadened that net a little bit by bringing that down to 0.75. So anything over 3/4 of an acre lot would have that 3 options. So.
And I forgot a part. This was a zoning, so we did have a public hearing with the planning commission as well.
I'll make a motion to adopt or approve ordinance 2024-06.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Brian, and planning and zoning. 10K, sale of the old street sweeper. Mike?
And maybe that should have been worded a little differently too, is to scrap.
Junk the old.
Selling that.
To the junkyard.
I think the memo said that. I don't have it in front of me, but the bearings are out of it now. So it's really not worth nothing. It was worth not much when we bought it, just to get us through last fall, and that's what we talked about. And not necessarily probably Watson's either, but find who would give us the best price for scrap. And the new one's coming next week.
I'll make a motion to approve the junking of the street sweeper.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Mike. 10L East Ninth Street Resolution 2024-19. Declaring the cost and assess ordering preparation of proposed assessment. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. So you'll actually have two assessments we'll be asking you to act on. Following Minnesota Statute 429, we open bids, which we did last week. And then what happens is now, if you recall in the preliminary hearing, we've told everybody those are preliminary numbers until we have actual numbers. Now we have actual numbers. So now we need to put in motion our final hearing, which will be our August 15th City Council meeting. That will be the hearing where everybody will get notice of that. They will be made aware of what their final assessments are. That will be their time to appeal their assessment. So they would come here and then they present evidence to you. After you hear that evidence, then we will ask you to consider the contract and awarding that contract. So what you have in your packet here tonight is all the paperwork that it takes to do that. Included in there is the bid tabulation. We did receive 7 bids. The low bid was submitted by Schumacher Excavating of Zumbrota. Their bid was $741,000. Our estimate on this project was $702,000, so their price is higher. What is our goal when we bid a project? Our goal is that we are within 10%. Our goal is also that we have some items built in there for safety. Safety meaning what happens if we have wet soils, what happens if when we're digging through a hill, we find something buried there. So we don't like to count on that, but we have some items built in here. This is what we call a unit price contract, meaning we pay them for what they do, how much rock or dirt or pavement, et cetera. So in an ideal world, it goes according to plan and we'll actually finish about that number. But again, we have to be cautious in what we do and have some safety factor built in. So I did talk to Scott Schumacher and said, Scott, your prices are a little higher than the ones you gave us just last year. And he said the main item is material costs continue to go up, that their labor costs have not gone up very much, their costs, but the prices of the items they're installing. So based on that, we feel this is a reasonable price. And we are recommending the City Council approve the 2 resolutions. How that impacts the people being assessed. Ironically, because it's based on actual numbers, the Champa's assessment actually goes down a little bit because again, it's based on actual numbers, but the city portion goes a little higher and the residence goes up a little bit. What's a little bit? Approximately $200 to $300, depending on the property. So pretty consistent with what we told in the preliminary. And that's really our goal, is that we want to hit that number. But again, I want to stress, until we open bids, it's an estimate. So council, we're asking you to pass resolution 2024-19, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions on that? Again, we've been talking about that for a year or two, so getting closer and closer. I think that's starting when, do we know roughly?
Well, Schumachers have said they would like to start potentially the next week after the 15th, the hearing. They want to start right away.
Okay.
But they are also crossing their fingers regarding rain. So, meaning we need it to stop raining.
I'll make a motion for the East Ninth Street Resolution 2024-19.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
No.
Oh, you're right, sorry. I thought it was ordinance. Yeah. Sarah?
Aye.
Bob? Aye. Joan?
Aye.
Kevin? Aye. And I passes 5-0-0. Good catch. Let's do 10M East Ninth Street Resolution 2024-20, calling for hearing of assessments. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. This is just the companion to this, setting the hearing date.
August 15th?
Yep.
6:10.
All right. Technically, all you have to say is 6 o'clock, and then you'll just call it when you get to it on the agenda.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2024-20.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Roll call. Sarah?
Aye.
Bob? Aye. Joan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill, again.
Thank you, Mayor.
10N, cannabis registration delegation. Brian.
Yeah, we talked about this, or you guys did a little bit in the work session. What we've got is the county asking us if we intend on delegating our registration authority to them. That would be for sales, not for grow operations. We would still have to do our own licensing and regulating of grow operations, or permitting and drafting of performance standards, et cetera. If we delegate registration authority to the county, they will handle registration and compliance checks. If we don't, we'll have to do the registration and compliance checks. We would, however, either way, we would still be able to have our own zoning rules regulating time and place of operations and those type of things. So we'll still put together our zoning rules, and then the county will make sure that our zoning rules for each community that delegates to them, our zoning would be incorporated. So they make sure when they're registering or licensing a retailer that they are following our zoning. And there is a process for a city to take back registration authority in the future. If we would delegate to the county now, we could at a later date say, you know what, we want to take that authority back. There will be a process for that.
Right now, we're just doing a motion to have the county take the delegation, correct?
Yes, or tell them, yes, we're gonna have you take the delegation, or no, we're not.
I'll make a motion to have the county take the registration delegation. We have not the staff nor, no.
I'll second that.
Any discussions on cannabis? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes 5-0-0. Thanks, Brian. 10O, resolution 2024. There was one correction, I believe, on the actual resolution, which it was just, we had it 19 and needed to change to 21, but it's correct in the.
Yep, that's right. Just the bottom, the final sentence read 2020 or 2419. It should be 2021. I have changed that on the one that I'll have the mayor sign.
Yep.
So, yeah, we just need to appoint election judges for the primary and general elections. We've got a nice list of names there. It'll be nice to have a bunch of help. There's no shortage of things to do on election day, and we have to do 2 more of them. So, looking for approval on that.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-21.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I
Yeah.
got one question. This is for the primary and the general
Yep.
election.
Yep.
My wife is listed there, and I don't think she can be on for the November.
Ooh, that's a good point.
I would be on there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, Matt, do you have any idea how we handle that? I'm wondering if we can approve this and then go back and remove her.
Can you do different resolutions for the primary and for the general?
We could.
I thought that's
At
what
the
was
next
done
meeting,
before.
or when does this have to be approved?
I think I have to have it in after this meeting. It's, I can't remember the date. I don't think we have another meeting.
Amended resolution for the general, did you do an amended resolution for the general at the next meeting, or is it too late?
I think they want them both. Let me,
But if she doesn't show up, I mean.
well, but
Doesn't
yeah, but
matter.
she's on the approved list, so I don't know how to answer that.
You just make an amendment to that to say for Jennifer, only the primary and not the general?
Could you just put her name and then just put primary only?
So I'm
Yeah,
not,
but you could do that.
Amendment on the record.
Common sense, we got.
What do you got,
Coming
James?
from Kim.
statute 204B.19, this is more Matt's field than mine, but subdivision 2, individuals not qualified to be election judges, B, no individual shall be appointed if that individual is the spouse, blah, 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 of any election judge serving in the same precinct or of any candidate at that election.
Right, yep, and that's what we're talking about, that she could do the primary.
Sorry.
Yeah, so she could do the primary, but not the other.
Only after her name?
Yep, I'll add that. And that's a stated amendment, and we did it in the meeting, so that should be, should be good. Okay.
Then I can amend my
Yeah,
thing to say
Jennifer Priege.
as amended, the resolution 2024-21 as amended. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I'll re-second that amendment.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0.
Is that a resolution?
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
Resolution.
This is getting really long,
It
so.
is.
Sarah?
Aye.
Bob? Joan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And I. Passes 5-0-0. 10P, preliminary and final plat, North Zumbro Sanitary District. Bill?
All right, now that you've heard the annexation, past that, now you can subdivide or approve the subdivision of the land. As we mentioned earlier, Zumbrota is a party to the subdivision because they're a party of the North Zumbro Sanitary Sewer District. So in your packet is information from Kurt. Interestingly, we have to review the subdivision from the city side. So you have a review letter in there from me as a city engineer. Ultimately, we're recommending approval. Now, what will happen is this is to facilitate the sale of the property. So some things still need to happen. There still needs to be an environmental assessment worksheet, environmental hearing on the project. There still needs to be a site plan submitted, et cetera. Those will all come back to the city over the next couple of years. But the first thing, though, is we have to approve a subdivision so we can own the land to make those future decisions. So with that, we are recommending approval of the preliminary and final plat. That was the quick version, so, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
And you'll see that the annexation was the 88.83 acres, and this is talking about the 44.56.
Yep, exactly.
Acres for the sanitary district.
Dividing it,
Yep.
yeah.
To have the mayor hold off on signing the plat until the annexation paperwork goes through. So some of these things, we just got to get them, a lot of things have to happen in parallel, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary and final plat of the North Zumbro Sanitary Sewer District.
Second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0-0. I had to make sure it was a resolution.
You're okay now.
I know. 10Q, Northwest Water Looping Project bids. Bill?
Last one for the night. So we did take bids on Tuesday for the Northwest Water Main Loop. As I mentioned when we set this is a long time in progress, this project. And part of that's because we received federal funding, which is fantastic, that we are receiving a $560,000 grant. The not so fantastic part is it's really taken us a long time to get here, but we're here. So we have bids. The estimated construction cost was $700,000. The bid was submitted for $678,749 by Northwest Asphalt of Shakopee, Minnesota. So we have not worked with them, but the city, you don't have a lot of discretion awarding. Basically, you have to follow the statute saying, is there a reason to throw them out based on your own experience? Based on our discussions with talking with them, looking at the projects they completed, they appear to be capable of completing this project. They have completed projects of similar size and scope. And based on the fact that they're $100,000 cheaper, and we have no reason to reject their bid, we are recommending that the city award a contract to them contingent upon EPA approval. So that is a requirement. So the EPA also has to approve this bid as well because the congressionally directed spending money is being funneled, or I should say funneled is being
Appropriated?
Yeah, routed through the EPA. Yeah, so whenever you receive federal dollars, there's always a federal agency that administers it. So that is the EPA in this case.
My question to you, Bill, on
Yes.
this, when I see Northwest Asphalt, I think of paving road companies. do you as an engineer research, check up on it? I mean, I know you mentioned that they're capable, but we do more research because none of us has heard of this, correct? I mean, you look at everybody else on here, we've seen them, they've done work for us.
We've talked to them, we said, what kind of work? Show us some examples of underground projects. So their name's a little misleading. They do other projects as well. They do a wide variety of projects, so.
So as an engineer, you're okay of
Well,
what you see?
the only thing we can consider, me and you, is are they the statutory requirement of responsive and responsible? So they meet that requirement. Now, personally, I don't know enough about them, but do I see any red flags? No, I do not see any red flags. But we're only really supposed to consider this strict statute. So again, we need dry weather, so for this project to go well.
I mean, because I always cringe when they're $100,000 cheaper, or somebody we don't know. Why is that?
Right.
I did too, I thought the same thing, but it's, if they're statute, so
Yeah.
there's
I get that,
nothing
but-
to discuss about it unless there's some.
So you only have two choices. Your choice is to accept the bid or reject all bids and rebid the project. So, and then you'd probably pay more.
We've got this far, I mean.
Yep.
And they do have to be held to certain standards and responsibilities as well.
That you are
That are
absolutely
put in
correct.
place.
Yep.
So that eases my mind a little bit because that's my same concern is we don't know them from anybody. So.
Yep.
I mean, everybody else on there we know or have done work for us.
Right.
But we also know contractors are hurting for business because of the economy getting caught up before a light winter. So, I mean, maybe they were just aggressive and need the work, so, but $100,000 is a lot.
Actually, that's exactly right, man. That's what they told us. They were short on work, so they I think their words were they hit it hard.
So, and we've talked about that before in other projects that it's starting to slow down a little bit, so.
All right, so this one we're recommending, this is just a straight motion, no resolution, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the Northwest Water Looping Project lowest bid.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thanks, Bill, for all your work.
You're welcome.
Next time you can run council, we did most of it.
Yeah.
Reports.
Our reports to go.
No, Brian has none.
No, I just want to thank WHCAS and that staff. There's an incredible amount of work that goes into all these projects. And Scott Haneke is sending emails constantly. The EPA thing went in circles for a long time, and Scott was patient and kept up with them and got it through. And I was kidding Bill before. I said, this is the Bill show tonight, so appreciate him coming in to speak to all these things. He can speak to this much more eloquently than I can on these projects. So I appreciate that. And then the pool committee has another meeting on Monday next week. They've decided that they're going to have a table at the National Night Out and at the fair. Now, we're in the vote stage, so we got to be careful as city staff or council. We can be there, we can be at the table, but only to provide facts and information. We can't talk about a vote one way or the other, but we can absolutely be there to help out, to answer questions, to give facts. So okay. National Night Out and the fair. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'll let Meg James is heading this up, working closely with Josh Layer from Burbach, and they're moving along, and we'll see where it goes.
Meg's done a good job so far on that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if none of you have talked to her about it, but yeah, she's.
Yep. And the primary, of course, is August 13th, and then work session the night after. So a couple of us might be kind of tired that night because those are long nights. Those election nights go till, well, it could go till midnight. Well, the primary one, we'll have Jen then. If we don't have Jen for the general, it might go till midnight then. She's usually our one to straighten things out that need to be straightened out. So, but I could go on, but no, I'm just kidding. That's it.
Well, we don't. Thanks. Matt?
Thanks.
Sarge?
We had a lot of training this week with the police department for firearms. And I was at the ICAC Task Force Basic Investigator School. Very good training. We've got a lot of training for various officers coming up as well. So we appreciate the funding to be able to have this training to keep us sharp on our skills.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarge. Bill, I'm skipping you. No, you have anything?
Enough.
James, I'll skip my normally detailed report for Sarah's benefit.
I just like,
Thanks, Kim.
size it
Mike?
up.
Meeting adjourned.
You forgot about all that?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Too late.
What is, what?
I forgot to ask you guys. I
Oh.
don't have nothing. I don't think Sarah has anything.
I had a long
Kevin had-
detailed.
Area ambulance is having a successful fundraising. There are $30,000 for funds raised so far.
Perfect.
And we've got the budget meeting
30,000.
coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep, their budget meeting is coming up at the end of the month.
They did a solicitation, direct solicitation.
All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
you
one just
can't even
has
spell
to be right
ambulance.
here. Dave Freeze. Dave Freeze.
Ambulance, we're going in the ambulance tonight. Holy moly. There's so many, nobody's gonna, the typos are bad. This is not a comfortable table to type on. I'm short bodied, I need a taller chair, long legs and I have a short body.
Yeah.
So it's-